What's up, guys? Good morning. Hopefully you all had a good. For fuck's sake, why is my phone keep falling over? Uh, uh, so I hope you all had a good day yesterday. So obviously I wanted to do a video today talking about sacconejolys. As obviously I haven't done a video talking about them for quite a while. I mean, there's not really much I can say about them other than certainly there is that, genuine concern regarding Jonathan, the thumbnails that Jonathan is using for his videos. I just think it's really weird and slightly creepy the fact that every time he uploads a video, the kids are always in the thumbnails with their mouths wide open. It just looks really creepy, and I think the reason that it feels so creepy is because you sort of know, and it's like you think about why he's using thumbnails like that. You think about what his intentions are and things like that, and it does creep you out because it's very clear to see that he is catering for a particular type of audience, and it's very clear to see what his target audience is. And to me, that's been very clear to see for a very long time. I think it's sad that people are constantly trying to defend Jonathan, when you think about the way that he's exploiting his kids. I mean, yeah, the way that, I mean, the exploitation is bad enough, but it's the way that he's exploiting them, that makes things a whole lot worse. It's basically the fact that he's using his kids to attract and appeal to his target audience. That is what I have an issue with. It's the fact that he's using his daughters to attract and appeal to child predators, to online paedophiles, and online child predators. And it's very clear to see that he's trying to do that. That's why it's always, he always has, it's always only the three girls that are in the videos, is as he knows that they were, and it's why it's always only the girls that are in the thumbnails, is because he knows that they will attract and appeal to his target audience. You know, it just amazes me to think about the amount of backlash that they've both gotten in recent months, in recent weeks and months over these thumbnails, and they haven't chosen to address that. They haven't chosen to address the backlash they've gotten over that. If you think they would, as I know that if I was getting so much backlash over something, I would want to address the issue that is actually causing all of the backlash. I would want to address that and say, well, look, did my two pennyworth on that. I would want to kind of try and put a stop to that. It feels like they're trying to sort of ignore the backlash, hoping that it will all just go away. But the reality is, the backlash isn't going to go away until Jonathan stops doing what he's doing with the thumbnails, or until Anna does what she should be doing as a mother and actually telling him to stop. This is the thing. I've said this so many times. She, as a mother, should be putting a stop to what he's doing. She, as a mother, should be addressing what he's doing with these thumbnails. If she needs to do that, she needs to address that. You know, I mean, I have reported Jonathan, to NSPCC. I reported him to, sorry, Children's Services, and so they are aware of him. There's no point reporting the thumbnails to YouTube because I've done this so many times, but YouTube just don't give a damn. YouTube just don't really care about things like that. They obviously don't see anything wrong with the thumbnails. Although we see, why these thumbnails are so wrong and why he should be, and we see something wrong with them, YouTube obviously don't. YouTube obviously are looking at the thumbnails, and they obviously don't see anything wrong with them. They don't see things the same way that we see them. Obviously, they don't have the same viewpoint on the thumbnails as we do. They don't see them in an inappropriate. They don't see them as being inappropriate, which is how we see them. And it's not that we are. It's not about the fact that we are choosing that people are choosing to see the thumbnails in an inappropriate way. It has nothing to do with that. You know, at the end of the day, like, it's just, to me, it seems odd that they've been getting so much backlash over these thumbnails and everything, and neither one of them has actually tried to defend themselves over this. Neither one of them has actually tried to, you know, try to justify this. People say, oh, he's trying to, he's hating for a certain, for a certain audience. He's trying, talking about what his target audience is, and he hasn't denied that. He hasn't come on and tried to deny the fact that he's hating for a certain audience, or that or what his target audience is. He's made no attempts to deny that. It's crazy when you read Jonathan's videos and you see the hate comments, and you see that Jonathan doesn't reply to the comments and try to defend himself. That says a lot to me about the sort of people that they are. The fact that they've been getting so much backlash over this and have made no attempt to try and defend themselves. And he's not even denied the fact that he's catering for a certain audience. He hasn't come out and said, tried to deny that and said, no, I'm not doing that. Which you think he would do. You would think if he was getting, if he was getting so much backlash over this, he would come out and, try to deny the fact that he's catering for a certain type of audience. But he's not denied that. And I think that really does prove a point. It's just, there's no need for him to, to be using thumbnails like this every time he uploads a video. There's no need for him to have his daughters in the thumbnails with their mouths wide open. And when you think about and the fact that people are defending him when he's using thumbnails like that, it's just shocking. People shouldn't be defending him when he's doing things like that. People shouldn't be defending him when he's using thumbnails that are so inappropriate and so damn fucking disgusting, which a lot of them are. When you go back, when you look at Jonathan's channel and you look through a lot of the thumbnails that he's used for for previous videos, it would be enough to make you feel physically sick. It really does make me feel ill when I go back and when I look at all of the thumbnails that he's been using for his videos, and I see what he's doing. It makes me feel physically sick knowing that he's doing that, and knowing that people are defending him over that as well when he's doing things like that. That makes the gravity of the situation so much worse. It's the fact that people are defending someone like him when he's doing things that are so fucking disgusting and so completely and utterly wrong. And we all know it's wrong. That it's wrong for him to be using these kind of thumbnail images. We all know that. We all know that he shouldn't be using thumbnail images like that, because he has no reason to be using thumbnail images like that. It goes without saying. It really, really does go without saying. He does not need to be using thumbnail images like that. It's that simple. It's like, how can people defend someone like him? How can people say that he's not doing anything wrong? He is. He's exploiting his kids, and the way that he's exploiting them is fucking disgusting. People shouldn't be defending a man who does not exploit his kids and use his kids as content for his own financial gain. That is what Jonathan is doing. And the fact that people are defending him over that is actually fucking disgusting. And it's actually disgusting the fact that people keep trying to deny the fact he's exploiting his kids. People keep trying to say, oh, he's not doing that. He's not doing that. Yes, he fucking is. He's been doing that for fucking years now. And people have defended him, both him and Anna for that time and time again. People have defended them for exploiting their kids and using their kids as financial gain time and time and time and time again. You know, they don't deserve to have people defending them when they are basically using their kids as content for their own financial gain. It's actually disgusting that people are trying to defend them. And you think about the fact that, all this business with the thumbnails and everything, and as I said, they've not even they've not even tried to defend themselves over this. They've not addressed this. You know, they obviously think that, if they ignore the backlash, it's all gonna go away. But the reality is, it's not gonna go away. Because at the end of the day, it's not gonna go away until Jonathan actually stops doing what he's doing with the thumbnails. Once he stops doing that, people will stop giving them so much backlash. The reason that people are giving Anna so much backlash is because people know that she should be doing something about this. People know that she should be addressing this. People know that she should be putting a stop to this. But the fact that she hasn't done that is actually quite disgusting. I mean, I'd love to see the authorities step in, if need be. I would love to see the authorities step in and do what they need to do, you know. I did originally say this video was about sacconejolys, but it's also going to be about the inghams as well. So recently, I made the decision to make reports to both the Lancashire Children's Services and Lossiemouth Children's Services to report both the Radfords and the Sullivans. Now, the reason that I've reported them is due to the fact that they've allowed the Radfords have allowed Fitzsimmons to be around their kids, and they're obviously going to be allowing him to be around their kids again, as they're obviously going to be going on a Scottish road trip. And the Sullivans have also been planning to meet up. We're also planning to meet up with the Inghams as well. I mean, at the end of the day, there's no justification for them allowing someone like Fitzsimmons to be around their kids after what he did. Like, it just doesn't feel safe to me that they would allow him to be around their kids after what he did, after the allegations that were made against him. The fact that Sussex police confirmed that he sent messages of a sexually inappropriate nature. At the end of the day, if someone was accused of something like that, I would not want that person around my kids. I wouldn't think it was safe to have that person around my kids after they've been accused of something like that. I wouldn't think it was right to have that person around my kids. To me, having someone like that around your kids when they've been accused of something so serious is, to me, it's a child safeguarding issue. And that's what I reported it as. I reported it as a child safeguarding issue. Obviously, the fact that the fact that they've allowed someone like him to be around it, it's just not safe. And the fact the Sullivans are planning to have that man near their kids, like they need their heads tested. I think it's sad that they've been blocking people who are trying to warn them about this. And I hope that that them planning to meet up with the Inghams, I hope it comes back to bite them on the backside, and I hope that harm catches up to them. And I hope that, as I said the other day, I hope that I sincerely hope that they are made to realise that they should have listened to the people who were trying to warn them about this, and were trying to warn them about about the allegations that have been made against him. I mean, the worst thing with the Radfords is that they know what they know what Chris did. I mean, that makes it even worse, the fact that they know what Chris did, they know the allegations that were made against him, and they've still allowed him to be around their kids. When he did what he did, the fact that he sent sexually inappropriate messages two teenage girls, and the Radfords have teenage daughters themselves. Same with the Sullivans, in fact. They also have teenage daughters. It's like, why would you want to take that risk of having that man around your teenage daughters when he was known to have sent sexually inappropriate messages to teenage girls? Why, no decent, no normal decent parent would ever take that sort of risk. No normal decent parent would think it was a sensible idea to take that kind of risk. But at the end of the day, it's not a sensible idea to do something like that. Regardless of what people think about it, it's not a sensible idea. It's probably the stupidest thing they've ever done. And I think they do fully deserve to be held accountable for that. I think they deserve every ounce of backlash that they get over allowing him to be around their kids. I think that they deserve to be they deserve the negative comments they're getting over this, because they shouldn't be allowing that man to be around their kids. It's as simple as that. It goes without saying. I think that the Sullivans planning to meet up with the inghams. I think this is going to do a lot of damage to their channel. I think I hope the Sullivans look forward to losing the respect of a lot of people. They're definitely going to. I think they're definitely going to lose, that respect from a lot of people, due to the fact that they've allowed this to be around their kids. People are not going to take too kindly to that. I mean, the thing is with the Sullivans is like, did they not expect people not to, did they not expect people to call them out over the fact that they're planning to meet up with the inghams after what Chris did? I can't have expected people not to call them out for that. Because people were always going to do that. People were always not. A lot of people were always going to be quite concerned when they found out that the Sullivans were planning to meet up with the inghams. People were gonna, there were not a lot of people were gonna react well to that, you know, and some people haven't reacted very well to that. They have to, given the Sullivans a lot of backlash for that, myself included. I commented on their posts and warned them about him and been blocked by them for that, which doesn't surprise me, one bit. At the end of the day, I mean, it's just crazy the fact that they are planning to meet up with the inghams and planning to allow the inghams to be around their kids when that man was accused of sending sexually inappropriate messages to teenage girls. Why the fuck would you want someone like that around your kids? Why the fuck would you think that? Why the fuck would you think that was a sensible idea? That's the fucking stupidest thing that the Sullivans could ever do. I don't know what the fuck they're even thinking of with this. Like, what the hell are they even playing at? Are they seriously for fucking real? Seriously for real? Gee, I mean, honestly to God, Ben and fucking Zoe are certainly not wired correctly, that's for sure. If they're willing to allow that man near their kids, they need their fucking heads tested. Simple as that. That's all I'm gonna say. So I hope you enjoyed this little video this morning. I'll see you for another one soon. Bye bye.